Okay. How are we doing? Anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions about the texts? Office hours.
Um, I ordered both of the books and the one that's not Identity, I forget the name of it. It's been on back order or something for like over 2 weeks now.
Oh, who'd you buy it through?
The Micah store.
They suck.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Do you know when you're going to get it?
No, I might just have to buy a digital copy in the meantime. I just didn't know if anyone else had that problem.
I'm the last person to boost Amazon, but I know that if you buy it from Amazon, they give you the option to start reading it on Kindle right away.
I could
That's
try that.
that's
Thanks.
very that's awful, Laurel. I'm very sorry about
It's okay.
it. And listen, I'm willing to work with you. If anybody else runs into this problem with the Micah bookstore, I will advocate on your behalf for them to give you a refund. Okay? Because it's not acceptable. These books have to be available for you especially when I ask you to buy them in advance. That's ridiculous.
Thank you.
Sure. So keep in touch, Laurel. Any other questions? All right. Let me share again, and now we'll look at the schedule. Okay. So here's the schedule. Today is September 2nd, introduction. Next week, your requirement is to read chapters 1 and 4 from Wendy Brown's Undoing the Demos, which is a great book. If you all want to do your generational magic and find a PDF online, that's fine with me. I'm not going to get involved. Wendy Brown, I'll just say a word about her. Wendy Brown is professor of politics at Berkeley. And this is an excellent book, which I've taught once before. I taught it last fall, and it is a critique of neoliberalism and how it undermines democracy. We'll be reading for Wendy Brown's book for 2 weeks, and then we're going to switch to a reading from Alex Vital, The End of Policing, which I'm really excited to include in this. I was inspired. So I did, I've been teaching this course for a long time, and I was inspired to change up the readings by all the activity this summer. And policing is a really interesting topic, which I've never really touched on, but of course, policing became so important this year. And I had a hard time finding books that really dealt with it from a political theory standpoint. But this book is interesting. And Alex Vital talks about the overarching ethos that directs American policing. And I found the entire text digitally, so I posted it on our Canvas. So feel free to read it if you want. It's a very nice book. It's not difficult to read, but you're only required to read chapters 1, 7, and the conclusion. Your first essay is due at the end of this month. I will be posting the topics shortly. The topics will deal with Vital and Brown, principally Brown. I guess I should pronounce that Vitali. Then we'll be switching to Eddie Glaude, some sections from his book, Democracy in Black. Eddie Glaude is the chair of the African American Studies program at Princeton. He wrote a book which was a really interesting treatment of the critique of how our democracy has disenfranchised African Americans. And again, I thought this was extremely timely given events this summer. I'm also including, after that, we're going to read chapters 5 and 6 from Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow. This is a contemporary classic, and I'm hoping that some of you have already read from it. I know that a lot of curricula now include this, but if you haven't, it is the kind of work that you should know. It is about 10 years old, this book now, but I find these 2 chapters incredibly relevant, and they're just something that everybody should know. After that, we're going to switch to, and by the way, for those of you who don't know, Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, among the things it deals with the incarceration crisis in America, which has the largest incarcerated population on earth. After that, we're going to be looking at a small book by Francis Fukuyama called Identity. Francis Fukuyama is, he teaches at Stanford. He used to be at Hopkins. He is one of the most influential American political philosophers of the last 30 years. And he wrote a book. He used to be someone who talked about, what it would take to help democracy spread around the globe. And then he wrote about why it wasn't spreading around the globe. And in this little book, he takes on the issue of identity politics, which has become very important in American political scene in the last 5 or so years, and looks to be, again, a major issue for this coming election. I have taught this book for about 3 years now, and it seems to be very good. Students appreciate it. So I was happy to include it. And I think it is also very readable. Your second essay is due on November 4th. And then after that, I'm having us read a book, a section from Rebecca Solnit's book, Call Them by Their Names. Rebecca Solnit is a contemporary American essayist, and I just think that she is one of the most fabulous writers. And I taught this last fall, and students just thought it was excellent and awesome. This book is recent. I think it's only from 2016. It is reflections on the Trump phenomenon. And then after that, we're going to read Jenny Odell, How to Do Nothing. Jenny Odell is an author I think you all need to get to know. I'm totally jealous. She's like 30 and she's already a huge, well-known writer, well-respected. And she graduated from an art college. I forget which one. It's on the West Coast. She's a designer by her training, and she teaches art and design, I believe, at the D School at Stanford. And she wrote a book, How to Do Nothing, which is a critique of like social media culture, but also interesting discussion of the attention economy and this thing called bioregionalism, which I just think is such an interesting idea. And I wanted us to take up this issue and discuss this because I think, Solnit and Odell have a lot to say about the role of social media in politics and how, the kind of terror that it wreaks. Social media, they offer very interesting critiques of how social media, how people speak on social media. They have critiques of how it is a stand-in for a new political sphere. So I thought that was very important for us to look at. And then the 25th, you're on Thanksgiving break. And then the 2nd of December, Amitav Ghosh is our last reading. It's a short one, The Great Derangement. He is an Indian writer, and this is a book about climate change. I thought it was important for us to deal with. And Jenny Odell already talks about environmentalism. So at this point, we're shading into the climate change discussion towards the end of class. Last class meetings on the 9th, discuss final research papers and schedule paper conferences. You will each have a paper conference with me individually. I'm going to get you rolling on these final paper topics just before Thanksgiving. What that means is I want you to start thinking about what you'd like to write about. I won't tell you much about the final research papers just yet. I will only say that they are individually chosen topics that are topics of special interest to you, which overlap with or come out of our discussions and texts we read. That's all I need to say about that. I've gotten some really great research projects in the past, and so I'm hopeful you'll continue that tradition. And then you'll each have conferences with me that last week of class. And what that means is you and I will meet on Zoom for about 15, 20 minutes. We'll talk about your topic. We'll focus it if need be. You might give me a menu of topics, say which one's best. I'll tell you which I think is most profitable. And then I can also help you with research, get you started on that. And then your final papers are due on the 16th. Now, one last comment before I open it up to the floor. About the text that I've chosen for this class, I tend to like authors that I think are good writers. And so I do not think you should have too much difficulty with these texts. None of these are particularly challenging, I think. I My general philosophy is also, some of you have had me in class before, you know, you remember me saying this. My general philosophy is I don't like to give overwhelming readings. I like to give what I consider manageable. And I've gotten feedback from students that, you know, about 40 to 50, 60 pages a week is manageable reading politics and political theory. These are not overwhelming, but I expect you to do them. Okay? All right, let me open it up to the floor, and then I will go over our Canvas site. Anybody have any questions about any of that stuff? Nobody has any questions? All right. That's fine. Let's take a look at Canvas.
Wait, I have a question.
Go for it.
Exactly, like we only need to buy one book, right?
Two.
Two? Okay.
The Fukuyama book and the Wendy Brown book.
Okay.
And digital versions of both exist.
Okay, great. Great. Thank you.
Oh, you should also check the MICA library, see if they have a PDF of it. The ebook collection in the library is not great, but it's growing. So take a look and see if they have an ebook. Anybody else? Any other questions? All right, I'm gonna share, and we're gonna look at Canvas. All right, so I did in student view. This is how this looks to you. Okay, so for today, this is module 1, September 2nd. I have our syllabus up here. I have some articles printed for you, posted for you all that I thought were interesting. 2 of them we're going to talk about in just a second. One, you know, because I wanted to talk a little bit about the politics of the pandemic, and 2 of them have to do with just that. How China controlled the virus from the New Yorker, and that was 2 weeks ago, and then how the pandemic defeated America, which is in the Atlantic of last month as well. And then the irony of armed protesters. That's an article I wrote for the Atlantic earlier in the summer about when we had all these lockdowns, these protests against lockdowns, and there were all these guys with guns who were protesting them. And then, of course, last week in Kenosha, that erupted in violence. That is the armed protesters, that is. For next week, reading responses to Wendy Brown, right? I'm going to go over the whole thing first, then I'll take a look at those reading responses so you can see how that goes. The 16th reading responses. For the 23rd, I have your reading here from Alex Vitale. You click on that, that's where the PDF is. Here's your reading responses. And then I have 2 articles that I've included. How America exports police violence from around the world. This police violence has been a big topic all summer long, and that's an article from the New Republic. And then America's cop problem is a gun problem. That's an article I wrote this summer about when the police reform issue came up. I wrote about the gun rights agenda in America and how our proliferation of guns is a problem for police reform. October 7th, we're going to be looking at Eddie Glaude's book. So I've included the 3 chapters there. Warning in advance. I got them from the library. They sent me via interlibrary loan, and they're not the best copy, but they're legible. The reading responses are there, and I included an essay from The Economist in July, Race in America, which I thought was very interesting. I tend to like The Economist, and I recommend it because it is one of the few relatively nonpartisan and very substantive magazines around. October 14th, New Jim Crow. There they are. Those are the 2 readings, and then reading responses. And then it looks like I'm missing a week. Shoot. All right, I'll get on that. Any case, for the 21st and 28th, we have Fukuyama, and I'll have the reading response there. And then November 11th, Solnit. The text is here. There are the reading responses. And then for the 18th, Jenny Odell, I don't have that text yet, but I have the reading responses posted. I haven't filled them in yet. And then the second, there's your Amitav Ghosh, last reading, and those are the responses, okay? So this is what the reading responses will look like next week. This is what I posted for Wendy Brown. Please answer these 3 questions below pertaining to your reading in Wendy Brown's Undoing the Demos. Your responses are due before class time on September 9th. Make sure your answers are substantive and detailed. 1, how has neoliberalism changed how we view a college education according to Brown? What does the idea of homo economicus mean? And what does Brown mean by the term responsibilization? Okay, and again, I ask you to submit those before class. You'll just hit reply and start typing. Give me a healthy paragraph for each. Some weeks I'll give you the option to write 2, sometimes 3. All right, questions? Anybody have any questions? You're an unquestioning bunch today. All right. Last chance. Now it's your turn. Okay. Well, that's all I have to say about your Canvas and your syllabus. If any questions arise, let me know, okay? You have a few days to look over this stuff. Keep me posted if you run into difficulties getting the texts. And always please point out to me mistakes I've made. I'm not great on technology and I may have forgotten stuff. Okay. All right, last chance for questions. And then I'm moving on to something else. All right, good, done. Okay, now I want to hear from you all. I would like you all to please introduce yourselves. And when you introduce yourself, why don't you say what your major is and where you are, and how's it going? That kind of thing. So I'll start by seeing if there's any volunteers, and then I'll just call on people. Who wants to go first? I'm going last.
I can go.
Nicole, we can't see you. What's going on?
Oh, my internet's a little unstable. I could turn it on.
No worries. Do your thing.
Please for a second. Hi.
All right.
Okay.
Yourself. Go ahead.
Okay, so my name is Nicola Espino. And right now I'm in Panama, Central America. And my major is art history with a concentration in graphic design.
Awesome. Thank you. And how's it going?
It's going pretty good. It's a great sunny day. It's not that hot, which is weird. So it's a good day. I haven't done much. I'm still in my PJs. So I think it's a good day.
All right, cool. Hey, everybody. Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate you breaking the ice. Now I see Harley. Harley, can you wave for everybody? Hey, Harley. Harley, you didn't hear this earlier, but you're going to introduce yourself at the end just before I do. Is that all right?
Great.
Cool. All right. Let's see. Who is next? I'm going to hear from each one of you, or we all will. So
I can go.
Thank you. Zachary, are you able to show yourself?
No, I don't have a camera, sorry.
All right, go for it.
Yeah, I'm Zach. I'm a graphics major. I'm in Boston, Mass. And yeah, things have been going okay.
All right. Not bad. Cool. Thanks, Zach.
Yep.
Who else? Who's next?
I'll go.
Gabriel.
I'm Gabriel. I'm a junior interactive arts major. I'm like a few minutes away from Micah right now. Someone's playing Pokemon in the background.
And how are you doing, Gabriel?
I'm doing well for a minute.
Nice. Next.
I'll go because I'm another Gabriel. I'm a sculpture major. I just moved back to San Diego. And this is my bird Hido, who makes a total fit if he's not in every Zoom call.
Really?
Yeah.
That's great.
And
Well,
make a lot of noise, and yeah, he just wants to be part of the action.
Fido is welcome. I don't care. Does anybody else care? No, I don't think so. All right. Thank you, Gabriel. Who else? Who's next?
Hi, I'm a sculpture major, and I'm in Baltimore right now. I just moved here I just moved from New Jersey, and me and my roommate got an apartment, so it's been good, busy.
And your name?
Oh, hi. You can call me. My name is Wei Chen, but you can call me Wei.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Wei Chen. Thank you, Wei. Next.
Hey, I'm Laurel. I'm a senior GFA major in painting concentration, and I live in Pigtown in Baltimore. And I'm all right. Anxiety is lower. But yeah, I'm excited for.
Nice. Thank you, Laurel. All right. Who's next?
Hi, my name is Jennifer. I'm a fiber major, experimental fashion concentration, and right now I'm in my house in Carrollton, Maryland, and I'm doing okay.
You say you're in Maryland?
Yeah.
All right. What part? I didn't hear that.
Oh, New Carrollton. It's like the Prince George's County.
I know where that is. Okay. Thank
Mhm.
you. All right. Next.
I'll go. I'm Mason, studying illustration, and I'm moving in Baltimore.
Are you a junior Mason?
Yeah.
Thank you. Next.
I'll go. I'm Gloria, and I'm a junior illustration major, and I'm currently in Baltimore, and I think I'm doing okay.
And Gloria, do you have a camera?
Yeah, but my camera is there's something wrong with it. I don't know why it's only showing a white dot, but I'll get a new camera.
No worries. Thank you, Gloria. All right. Who's next? I nominate Ruben.
Hi, I'm Ruben. I am a fibers major. I'm kind of a senior, kind of a junior. We won't talk about that. And I'm in Baltimore right now. I've been in Baltimore since the end of last semester. And yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good.
All right. Thank you. Who else?
I can go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Cameron lit up on my screen, so Cameron, you go.
Okay. I'm Cameron. I'm a junior fibers major. I'm in Baltimore, and I'm also doing good.
Nice. All right, Haley, you were trying to chime in, I think.
I think that's all of it.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Haley. I'm a senior painting major. I'm in China right now at home. I think everything's going great.
Good. All right, now I'm going to start nominating people. Cindy.
Hi, I'm Cindy. I'm a junior illustration major, and I'm doing good.
Where are you, Cindy?
Oh, I'm in Boston right now, so.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Vicky, did we hear from you?
Hi, my name is Vicky Shao. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a senior painting major, and I'm currently in Beijing, China.
Great. All right, team, how about you? Team?
Hello, I am Ian. I'm a senior graphic design major, and I'm currently in the state of Iowa.
Iowa?
It's been going pretty good, yeah.
Whoa. All right. Cool. Humli, did we hear from you?
Hi, I'm Homely and I'm a senior graphic design major. I currently in Baltimore and really close to school, and I'm doing great.
What did you say your major was?
Oh, I'm a senior graphic design major.
Senior. Cool. Rashad, can we hear from you, please?
Oh yeah, hey, yeah. My name's Rashad. I'm an illustration major. I live in Baltimore. I'm like right by Micah, and I'm a senior. And I'm going pretty good. You know, I'm just kind of want to get senior year over with. Yeah.
I hear you. Let's see. Quan, did we hear from you?
Hi, my name is Kwan. I'm a junior painting major. I'm from Singapore. And I'm very excited to be in this class. But it's like 4:30 a.m. in Singapore.
Oh,
So
you're
I'm trying to stay awake.
Quan, you're a rock star. 30. How about you, Chol? Did we hear from Chol Min?
Hi, I'm Cholman. I'm a senior GFA major. I'm in Dallas, Texas right now, and doing real well. It's finally raining, so it's like not burning hot outside anymore. That's really nice.
And how about Jeremy?
Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a senior graphic design major. I'm in Baltimore, and I'm doing fine, I guess.
Cool. I think that's all the students. Did I miss anybody? All right. Harley is going to be our teaching assistant for this class. So I'm going to pass it on to Harley now.
Hi, I'm Harley. I took this class spring of 2019 when I was in the spring of my junior year. I've actually done all 4 years at Micah, but I needed an extra semester, so that's this semester. Yeah, I'm a GFA major, and I have a minor in politics and culture and concentration in sustainability and social practice. My pronouns are they or he. I think that's it.
Great.
Yeah, I'm doing good.
I realize I should probably include your email on somewhere on our Canvas site, since Harley is going to be our TA. So if you ever want to, I guess, I don't know. What.
Chat. Whatever you feel like, hang out, talk about politics.
Harley has been a student of mine twice, right?
Yeah. I took modern political theory too, and now we're doing my thesis.
Yeah. So Harley, if you want some tips on maybe shoot some ideas for writing or whatever, I guess talk to Harley, and Harley, I've asked to do a presentation in our class later in the semester about their work, right? About your thesis, right?
Yeah. I'm doing it on like different forms of justice and cancel culture and internet culture.
Right up my alley. I love it. All right, cool.
I hate cancel culture, so we can have a debate about that.
All right.
I'm not interested in debating anyone. I'm just gonna do my own thing. I think that it's, there's a lot of different ways that you can go about what you want to go about doing, and there's a lot of different intentions that people have, and that's what I'm writing about.
Wow, I wasn't ready to do this. I'm going to put the brakes on it because I don't often throw my weight around in class. I like to let the students run, go with the flow. But today I don't have much time, so I'm happy to have a debate and discussion about this. We'll have ample time, trust me. I don't shrink from choosing texts that are sensitive or controversial. So Harley knows, no problem. Let me say a word about myself, and then I do want to have a little bit of a discussion with you all. We will be done at 5:30, like I promised. So my name is Furman DeBrabander. I've been teaching here at Micah for 15 years now. I am in Towson. I live near Baltimore, just north of the city. It's weird hearing how many of you are in Baltimore. We have to do this virtually. It really stinks. I really enjoy teaching at Micah. I really enjoy teaching in the classroom. I'm really sorry we're not meeting in the classroom. But that's okay. I've taught several classes online now in the last year, and they've all seemed to go pretty well. Students have told me they've gone well, at least. And so I think we can get something productive and successful out of this semester, for sure. I'm especially excited to see the individual research projects you guys end up with. My specialty is political philosophy. I have a PhD in philosophy, and my specialty is political philosophy. And I wrote a book on the gun debate a few years ago called Do Guns Make Us Free? And I have a new book coming out next week about privacy. It's called Life After Privacy. And I'm happy to share with you all the link. I'm going to be on Baltimore's NPR station middle of October for an interview for the book. So it's just coming out, and hopeful that it'll make me lots of cash money. That's the only reason I write. So I think that's all I need to say to you guys. Before we dive into a discussion, maybe I'll pause here and see if there's anything I'm missing or if anybody has any questions or anything. Just about how discussion will go in this class. I'm not big on technology. You're not going to see any PowerPoints from me. I don't do that. When we were in the classroom, I like to use a chalkboard, which I don't have now. So I might be using the whiteboard. I might split screen, but generally I like to keep it so everybody sees each other and, you know, keep it as close to a seminar as possible. When you want to speak, you know, either just go ahead and speak, or you can raise your hand where? Anybody know where? Is that under participants? Hello?
It's if you go to reactions at the bottom, you can put, I don't think that's clapping and thumbs up, but also you could just raise your hand. Yeah, I don't know how to, oh, raise hand is in participants. Yeah, you're right. Okay.
I'm super lame. I've had Zoom meetings all summer. I've just been raising my hand like this, like an idiot, and it seems to work just fine. So if you want to do that, or there is some, maybe it's chat.
It's participants. Yeah, I just checked.
Participants. Okay. All right, you guys you can raise your hand that way. It's all good. Okay, we'll make it work. I promise. Okay. All right. So what I wanted to talk about today is I wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, the elephant in the room, which is, that's an American saying. I don't know. I think it's English, but it's about the uncomfortable reality that we're all dealing with and trying our best to ignore, which is this pandemic. I was thinking about this before class, you know, what this is like for you all. You all are, you know, there are a few events in history that will really mark you and, you know, really affect you going forward, events you will never forget. You should ask your parents and your grandparents what those were. I remember my parents said that when John F. Kennedy was shot, they remembered where they were when that happened. They remember when they heard it. For me, my generation, I will always remember 9/11. I remember where I was when those towers were hit. I remember someone telling me. I remember watching on television as the second tower fell. And that happened in 2001, just when I started teaching college. And, you know, debates about terrorism and patriotism have just been constant themes ever since for me. And this pandemic is a once in a century thing, we hope, knock on wood. I mean, the last time we had a pandemic like this, at least in America, is the Spanish flu, which was in 1918, which had a huge fatality rate. And one of the things that's amazing about the Spanish flu is, you know, there are people reporting on it now with the pandemic, but it's amazing how that was forgotten for so long. An event like that killed such a huge proportion of people, not only in America, but the globe. It was just kind of like skimmed over and ignored, you know. It is quite remarkable. And I just wondered if we would talk a little bit about, you know, what would you have to say? You know, one thing that's, you know, kind of interesting, I think, to think about is how this pandemic is going to change things. And I thought I would see what you all thought. What changes do you think you might expect to see as you move into adult life? What changes has this pandemic brought about? Or do you think, what changes do you predict it will bring about?
I think like changes like people like I guess it probably already happened, but like people like evaluating like how much work needs to be done, like how often you need to actually physically come into work versus how much you can get done at home, or like how long you need to stay physically at work, you know. And then like I'm into like comics and stuff like that. I know like recently like you know stuff like that is moving more digitally because it's like why would you go and you know risk getting a virus or a disease, you know, and when you can get like a digital copy of something as opposed to like going out to a store and buying a book or something like that. So I think it's like it's just gonna evolve where more things are done from a distance, like literally and like metaphorically in a sense.
Great, great. Yeah, I mean, will the shopping mall exist after this? Will offices exist? How about colleges? You know, those are. I think that's the $1 million question, Rashad, at least from my vantage point.
I think it will like exacerbate sort of already existing sort of divides. Obviously, like us all being on Zoom, right, and sort of remote working, right, and subcontracting work out to other people. I think that it's not like in the interest of how we think it is. You know, like for example, like almost all of JavaScript stuff is like JavaScript programmers are all entirely contracted out to India because it's so much cheaper and they have programs to train them there. I mean, of course, call centers and other things, but like things that you don't think about might be, and just sort of in the redistribution of labor, like a lot of the labor that we do here, that we've moved over, like it's moved over to less developed countries, like you know, factory work, repetitive type things. Like we're going to start to see our labor market shift because it could be, we're realizing it could be totally remotely done. I think is a really big one. But I think also like one other thing on that, which I was thinking about, is that thinking about like places like New York, Chicago, LA, where there's incredibly high prices for real estate because you have to be there for a lot of things. I hope to see like redistribution of real estate prices. Maybe that's super hopeful for somebody who would like to live in a big city affordably. But that's one positive, but I see a lot of more negatives in terms of just the way that, you know, just making the jobs we already do, you know, being paid less for that.
Thank you. So increased digitalization, and you touch on the issue of globalization. This might, you know, provide a boost to globalization.
Something that I've been thinking a lot about, I mean, obviously, like, since there's such a massive amount of, like, furloughs and unemployment going on, I think, like, hand in hand with, like, a huge unemployment population, like, I think there's a lot, obviously, more time for, like, creativity and, like, to think about, like, ways of, like, experiencing and trying to find new ways of work, or even, like, in art making. I think that it's, like, a forced hand where people have to really, like, find new ways to make money or create or just kind of like socialize. So on that end, like creativity.
Good.
And also, but like we're lucky for like jobs lost and whatnot, because like at least we're not in like a war or something. Like obviously Corona is going to screw our economy, and like so many people's lives already have been affected terribly, but at least we have like a country and like buildings to like go back to and things like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've been thinking about the growing national debt, especially acquired during like before this pandemic. And although like all the monetary assistance is needed, like we're the generation who's going to have to pay it off. And like the money just doesn't like come from nowhere. So I'm wondering what our futures are going to look like in terms of that. And also I think more people are going to be moving to the suburbs and rural areas and out of cities.
I
Good.
also, just to add on to that, I think a lot of expatriation is going to happen also. Like a lot of people will probably leave the country at one point.
Do you mean emigration?
Expatriation.
So people going back home?
Just people leaving the US, I think. Just looking for jobs or looking for like maybe a more stable like social climate. I don't know. I think that there's definitely gonna be like a new wave of people like leaving the US, even as opposed to like normally like people are coming to the US to try and get jobs.
And why do you say that, Sarah?
It's definitely like I feel biased in saying that because it's something I've seen around me a lot. My family is like, we're immigrants, and we have lots of immigrant friends. And so the conversation about coming to the US and trying to like find work and make life better or whatever, has like completely flipped. And I'm also from New Orleans, where restaurant business and like tourism is very large. And so the jobs have been non-existent for so many people. And I've already had like family friends make plans to move back to their homes or like find a new country to live in just to try and find work.
And it's principally because of employment.
Yes.
But okay, thank you. What else? Anybody else? What changes you think Corona will leave in its wake?
Just to add to what Laurel was saying about people moving to rural areas, Panama has always had the problem where the capital is like the only like I don't know how to say that, like modern, like advanced part of the country, and most of the rest of the country is mostly just rural areas. And because the city is like the center where most infected people is, most people from the city have moved out, and then a lot of like businesses have been starting to bloom around the rest of the country, where people are like taking their businesses and moving them to the new rural areas. So we've been talking a lot here about how the capital is not going to be like the only economic center of the country anymore, but that it'll get more leveled out.
So decentralization also.
Yeah, exactly.
What else? Anybody else?
I was gonna probably further talk about like the whole thing with digitalization and like how like technology is gonna how it influences the whole thing during Corona. Was like, I guess like right now there's more emphasized debate on surveillance, because there are some countries like outside of the US at least like using like things to track people's like phones or something if they're tested positive for COVID and stuff like that. And like I think like it's starting to become like, I don't know, I guess like more of a thing that's like just starting to get common. Obviously, like it's been a thing where like all of our phones have, you know, because we have social media or something, technically your phone is kind of like tracked, but I think like it's starting to become more like, I guess like emphasized to people, so people now know about it after like COVID like hit.
Great. So emphasized or growing network. We're living in a networked world, and that network is vulnerable to surveillance. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically.
Ruben. Oh, sorry, Cindy, you weren't finished. Go for it.
Oh, I was also gonna add like, I guess like, in terms of like other things with technology, like people are like kind of starting to, I don't know, this is what I've seen in my experience like during like quarantine and stuff like that, is that people are kind of like, who are into, you know, digital learning and are okay with having digitalized education. I guess a lot of them realize that like a lot of it's just cheaper, and there's just more influx of like people just offering kind of like digital classes during that time to make money. So like I remember when like quarantine happened, I just like there's just so many like digital classes that were coming up in terms of like things I want to do, like art, maybe music related, or like just like other like little things. So I guess like I think that's sort of influencing a population of people right now of like whether or not like college education is worth it, or they could just learn everything technically digitally. So
wow. We are going to talk about neoliberalism and what that's done to universities and college education. That's coming up in Wendy Brown in 2 weeks. But that might be interesting to wade into that in a little bit. Ruben, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was gonna say one thing I'm a little bit worried about is how much is not gonna change after this whole situation. Like, it's crazy how much ignorance I've seen come out of something so severe, and like how much of a political statement it has become to even wear a mask, you know? So I'm very concerned on how much darker and how much worse things can get because of this situation. And also, I want to say that I think we're going to get UFO disclosure because of this. So,
what? What is that?
UFO disclosure?
What is that?
What you mean?
Alien.
Aliens?
Didn't
Yes,
they,
bro.
didn't they show like a video, like the CS satellite confirmed like it was like a video UFO?
Yeah, the government
mean-
already confirmed the UFO existence with this like really old shoddy video.
Yeah, I mean, that video has been leaked for a long time, but they officially said that it happened. But anyways, I just think that, yeah, because of all the things going on, I feel like they feel like, or the government will feel that it'll be a comfortable time to release more information.
Cool. All right. You've given me a very nice, well, I'm going to ignore the UFO stuff, not because I don't find it interesting. It's because I wasn't prepared. Not scripted. I will look it up after class, I promise. But you kind of anticipated the next thing I wanted to talk about, so I'm gonna roll into that. I want to get into the sensitive topic of politics and the pandemic, and I want to get into it this way. We have a bunch of international students in this class, many of whom have indicated they're overseas. And I want them to start with the questions. International students, what questions do you have about the US and the pandemic and how the US has handled it? Would any of you like to ask a question? Oh, and these can be international students who are here, of course. Anybody? Go for it.
So the question I have is like why the US reacted this whole situation so late and being so like ignorant for this whole situation while like other countries like especially China are taking it really seriously, and like until now like US still have like up to 10,000, 4,000, 40,000 growing confirming cases each day, and which is like just shock like all my friends with like why they are doing this. And like I just feel like US is not taking this seriously and still thinking this is whole like a joke, while there are so many people already lost their lives, and like a lot of people die from this pandemic, and like there are still people continuing getting this disease and not taking it seriously, which just make me really concerned.
Good. Thank you, Gloria. Before we start answering these questions, are there other questions? That was a big question. You rolled a lot in there, but maybe somebody else would like to ask a question. about the
I'm a
U.S.?
little confused about how, like, the U.S. in general handle it. Is it like each state basically like did their own thing, or was there like a government, like national wide issued laws or rules or something like that? Like, I'm not sure how that worked out, because I feel like what I've been seeing in the news is kind of like different in different places in the US.
Good, thank you. Let me field one more question. Anybody else want to ask? Like, has there been a burning question you've had about the U.S. and the pandemic? This is your chance. Anybody now? I'm opening it up. Maybe that question is WTF, right? This is madness. I posted 2 articles for you all on Canvas about politics of the pandemic, and they're specifically about the U.S. politics of the pandemic, because those are the texts I've been reading, magazines I read. And this is a quote from the Atlantic article. Few countries have been as severely hit as the United States, which has just 4% of the world's population, 4% of the population, but a quarter of its confirmed COVID cases and deaths.
I want. Can I start with answering? I think like
go for it.
Laura's question, like why has the U.S. handled it so poor and was so late? I feel like, like the way that I've seen it is that I think America has an entitlement crisis. Ever since Reagan compared America, quote unquote, to the shining city on the hill, that sort of we are the model in which everybody else needs to look at. And I think that it sort of lends to many Americans sort of adopting that mindset that it can't be us, that we are entitled, like that's something that happens in other countries. It doesn't happen in our country. How dare you say that there are problems in our own country? There are problems with our police. There are problems with this, right? We are America. We're the best, right? We're entitled to say that, and that's like a very, it's a mindset that is super damaging, that doesn't create spaces for humility, right? So, and then of course, like the person that we have in office right now, Trump is the least humble person imaginable, right? And with that lack of humility comes a lack of compassion. And so I think it's like we've handled it so poorly, not because necessarily people or the right people are idiots, but it's like a refusal to acknowledge, at least from the top, no, this is happening to us. No, there are people dying here. So yeah.
Good. Ruben.
Yeah, I was gonna say I agree with what Gabe just said, and I would even push it into narcissism. It's like you see it all the time with, like, say a serial killer. Like they refuse to, again, like you said, take responsibility, and will go with the lie until the outcome is them being caught. So I feel like it's very similar. We're basically being run by a narcissist. And so it's the same thing. He will never, ever, ever say that he was wrong. And that is why we are stuck in the position we are.
Thank you. Sarah, you had your hand up first.
I think I do agree. One more time, just like push it further. I really think that it's inherent to back to the Constitution of our country, and just sort of like the individual focus, like compared to like a collective country, like a nation as a whole. I think that the individual drive and everyone's opinion matters sort of mentality in the US has with this whole new Trump administration has exacerbated that. But I think that's the big core thing comparing to things that I see in a lot of other countries where like the government does have much more of like a effective role in the sense that when they make an order, when they decide something, the citizens generally can follow through or like can kind of like listen a little better. I think that with like the individual mindset of Americans, they're just like, well, my opinion is no, that like I'm not going to follow along with like your shutdown or your quarantine because I don't want to, I don't think I need to, as opposed to other countries. Like my family's from former Yugoslavia, they had a smallpox outbreak in the 70s and everyone was forced to get a vaccine immediately. No question of like, oh, I don't want the vaccine, it might not be good for my kids. It's just like your government tells you to do something, you have to, versus our country. And, yeah.
Hey, you have your hand up.
Yeah, were you calling me? Yeah.
Yeah, Mason. Yep.
I think the pandemic also comes at a time where our culture is extremely polarized politically. So I think things that shouldn't be partisan statements have become partisan statements, especially if you think about how Trump's cult personality has more or less taken over, at least from my perspective as a liberal, just looking at what's happening. When you think about Trump's cult personality taking over the Republican Party, something like wearing a mask becomes a political statement. Like I think it was Rubin who said that. So if your president is consistently being like, America is great, America is exceptional, we don't need to wear masks, as you guys were saying with this idea of we're too good to get sick, then you don't want to wear a mask because it makes you look like a liberal commie.
Good. Cholmin.
I just wanted to add on to something that Sarah said about like how America currently is very like individual centered, or like everyone's just kind of like doing their own thing, and like it's like really it's very divided. And the frustrating thing about that is that in the past, like at least from what I've learned in history, like we were able to like band together and like overcome great obstacles. Like we see in World War II, with having to like go through rations and like living through those hard times, like Americans like working like together, putting their efforts together to like accomplish a very big task. Like I don't know, it's if I imagine like if some politician said like what is it, this is a wartime effort thing or something like that, like with the same efforts that we put into like World War II and all that, like we can do this, like we have to, like I feel like America could, but like it's you or me, it's like us or them mentality very much, and it's very frustrating to see that.
Good. Hey, Cindy, you had your hand up. Do you want to say something or not?
Yeah, so to, I guess, like extend on like the whole thing about like narcissism and stuff like that, it's not only the fact that like, yeah, there are just a lot of the American people are pretty like, you know, they're pretty selfish with how they dealt with this whole COVID situation. It's also like, another thing is like, I think I saw a lot of people via social media are just like, in general, just saying like, well, if I die, I die kind of mentality, which like, I guess I get it, but it's also just another problem of like, you know, the other person that you're around doesn't want to, and it's really selfish. It's always kind of, in America, it's always been kind of like a lot of people just have such a like a, you know, a me kind of like complex, just like thinking about only themselves, not about others. Like I have friends who have like, for example, like asthma, who have not left their houses since like the quarantine started because someone like outside of their house just decides to not be hygienic and follow like you know, precautions and stuff like that. So America definitely has just a lot of like issues having to do with their like I guess their narcissistic complexes. And another thing I wanted to like say, it was just like, I only briefly read about this, but apparently like under Trump's presidency, like pandemic relief funds and like just organizations were just like absolutely just like, you know, I guess like defunded and wasn't used anymore. And like even like the World Health Organization or something even evaluated the US to just not be able to go against a pandemic. And if a pandemic were to happen, it would just be absolute disaster, aka kind of now. So yeah.
I have just so you know, when we go through class, I'm going to run a little stack. And I have right now Gabriel, Laurel, and Ruben. So Gabriel, you go first.
Yeah, I think that's tying into what Cindy was talking about in terms of like individuality. I think that sort of the sort of the curse of America is that we've instilled, you know, the curse is that we've sort of instilled this individual freedom, and the idea of the liberty that you can go out. America taps into the individual's like particular narcissism, right? The belief that you know, you are great, you just gotta, you know, you just gotta be in the right place to show that. I think comes that like that lack of compassion, you know, when it's not affecting me or my immediate surroundings, it might as well not exist. And I think like, you know, but like going back to like that individual, you know, narcissism, parts of America, like that is sort of made great. We've had incredible discoveries and inventions and so forth come from that ability to, you know, for the individual to prosper. But, you know, it bites us completely in the back when we have something like this that requires a collective effort. I think like, what around the world we've seen, and I think this has like been true, especially sort of since sort of the Mao's like cultural revolution, is sort of like there's been two philosophies, which is that individualism, America has prospered, but then also talking about like in Yugoslavia, this is the same thing in China. When the government says something, there's sort of an inherent trust, right? The government sort of, I know in like a lot of Soviet era, sort of the government was sort of a father, a motherly figure, right? It was, instead of thinking of it as like an elected democracy, it was sort of this, you know, authoritarian, but an authoritarian loving figure. And we don't have that here. I don't know if it's possible to create that here. And we're bearing the brunt of, you know, of all of that.
Cool. Hey, you know, I don't know if you guys want to do this, but you all can comment in the chat too. Feel free. I'm not great at keeping up with that while the class is going, but you know, if you want to chime in, throw in stuff, go right ahead. And I understand, Rashad, you also wanted to talk, so I'll add you to the stack. But Laurel, I think you had your hand up next.
Yeah. So part of Gloria's question was, why did we wait so long? And there was a pandemic plan, and we were somewhat prepared for this, and Trump did wait too long to enact that wartime thing for using ventilators and creating PPE. But the word narcissism is getting thrown a lot, and to me, it's far more severe than that. Trump is willing to let hundreds of thousands of people die in order to not admit failure. And to me, he's a sociopath for that, not a narcissist. Yeah, so he's willing to let hundreds of thousands of people die in order to not admit failure. But, you know, he's been a failure his whole life. He's failed in business, he's bankrupt so many things, and he's always been able to have been bought out by his father. He's always been able to been rescued by money. And when you only assign monetary value to your moral value, and then you're put in a position of power, then everyone is screwed, basically.
Wow, thank you. Ruben.
Yes, I would agree with what Laurel said on the part that, yeah, we should not look at Trump as this like joke or this this buffoon, that this clown that's in office. But I will say that like I don't agree that we should either also look at him as just this failure, because I think his position is so nefarious and like such of evil doing that I don't think it's so easy to just say he's a failure, because I think that's like lowballing who he actually is. I think that I mean, we all know how to beat the enemy. You divide and conquer. And so I believe that the main problem is American people are so ignorant to what they do to us. It's like we believe it's a false pretense of individuality, but it's all a game. You know, it's like, it's hard to explain, but I think that what Trump is doing, or what the people behind Trump are doing, is a lot more intentional than it seems.
Just before I hand it off to Rashad, maybe translate what you're saying, Ruben, that this individualism is a natural fault line that the president is taking advantage of, as well as the partisanship. Okay.
Right.
Sorry, can I offer just a really quick response to that? I would say that what I meant by the failure was that he could be helping us, but he would see helping us as a failure.
Okay. I remember saying to my father when it was 50,000 deaths, I said, "Man, if only I was like in Trump's cabinet for damage control, because the obvious solution here would be, you know, you go out to all the people, you admit, you know, I was wrong, you know, but we're going to change this. We're going to turn things around, you know, and I'm a stronger, like do some bullshit. Like you're like, I'm a stronger man because I can admit I'm wrong." His followers would be totally into it. And then everybody else on the other side would be totally into it, you know, and then the crisis would be solved. But he's not capable of doing that.
Rashad.
No.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone else had like Nicole had a question about like how other states like are they handling it differently. I don't know if anyone else had a question, but like yeah, because I know like in Maryland, for a while at least, we like I got an alert on my phone. We had like a stay-at-home order, like you couldn't go out unless you were getting like essentials or something like that after like 8. Like a bunch of stuff like that. I know in states like Alabama are like completely open. I think I know I think in Georgia right there, it was like a school that opened and there was like a whole thing about like some students getting in trouble for like posting that. But yeah, like I also think that a part of the reason why is like how America's handled this, because like some people like don't think it's real. Like I know people, like my grandfather doesn't think Corona is real, and I'm like I don't understand why you would, you know what I'm saying? Like I understand being skeptical of the government, because you know sometimes they can do like shady stuff, but like why would you think that this whole thing is like, you know, like fake? And there is like, you know, I agree, like there is like the individual mentality of like they put like what is it? It's like something from Star Trek. It's like the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or something like that. And not a lot of people subscribe to that. So I would say that plays a big part in it. But like, yeah, I just think that, you know, it just comes down to people like not either believing it or not wanting to put in enough effort to like actually like stay in their houses and just not go out. You know?
Thank you, Rashad. One of the reasons I wanted to talk about this today is because, you know, I think what is, and I think it's an amazing case study, what we're seeing here, you know, like never in all the years I've been teaching have we had such a case study of the impact of how ideology matters. You know, there are countries around the world that have, as many of you indicated, have worked, that have reacted very well. New Zealand stands out. Many countries in Asia stand out. Some of the European countries stand out. And they were able to implement policies, but there was a political will behind them and a political acceptance. And the United States, I mean, it has been such, it's not enough to say that America failed. It is an exceptional failure. And it is remarkable that the United States has failed in such a way. You know, the richest country on the planet, the biggest economy on the planet, some of the top universities in the world that people from all over the world come to. Ironically, I was talking about this with my wife this morning. She studied at Bloomberg School of Public Health at Hopkins. I said to my wife this morning, why would anybody come to the United States to study public health anymore? You know, are you going to go to Chan at Harvard? You're going to go to Bloomberg at Hopkins? Are you going to go to the CDC? Who the fuck is going to listen to the CDC going forward? I mean, why would you listen to anything that, and that what blows my mind is that America has built, part of America had built up this expertise for years. It's there. The problem is there is not a political will to follow it. Now, a lot of you rightfully gave the president hell, but what's interesting is that it doesn't all land at his feet. There's something about this country. And this is why I wanted to have this discussion. We have a lot of international students here as well. And I think it's, you know, we don't have time to compare different countries, but it's interesting to think about, you know, a culture, how it is that how a nation is culturally disposed to be governed in a certain way or to affirm a certain kind of government. And a lot of you rightfully pointed out that American individualism is a problem here. We don't have time to go through all of the issues here. We're coming to a close, but I wanted to point out, I've included 2 articles for you all that answer the questions that have been asked. And I think they answer them quite well. The reason I like these 2 articles is because they don't put everything at Trump's feet. They don't leave him blameless. He definitely deserves a lot of the blame, but it has a lot. But the Atlantic article in particular talks about how the various fissures and the various cracks in American society and the various weaknesses and vulnerabilities, the COVID pandemic just kind of took advantage of those and exacerbated them. And these are not only political ones, but these are also racial ones and sociopolitical and economic fissures that took advantage of them and exacerbated them. But I'm just going to read one example here. This is from the New Yorker article I gave you, and this kind of stood out to me. I'm just going to read this passage. Actually, I'm going to share the screen because I've pulled it up on Canvas for you all. This is one of the advantages, I guess, here. So if you all see, this is the New Yorker article, and I just want to call your attention to this passage here. The Chinese lockdown, and think about this in respect to America. For those of you, you've all been to America, some of you are Americans, and how this would work here. The Chinese lockdown, and this article from New Yorker is how China so effectively controlled the pandemic. The Chinese lockdown was more intense than almost anywhere in the world. Neighborhood committees, the most grassroots level of Communist Party organization, enforced the rules. And in many places, they limited households to sending one individual outside every 2 or 3 days to buy necessities. If a family were suspected of exposure to the virus, it wasn't unheard of for their door to be sealed shut while tests and contact tracing were being conducted. Now, one student I taught, I'm going on, in the 90s sent a photograph of a door in our community that had been closed with 2 official stamps. That was from a previous lockdown. He says, I haven't seen such things since I was born, but people who are older have memory of such scenes. Now, the effort in China was very effective, but the short of it is that their government was able to do things that I'm not sure that Americans would have put up with, right? Especially with their guns, right? So that is an extreme example. That is not to say this article goes on to talk about what was possible here and where we did miss the boat. But the reason I think this is so interesting for us is because it shows, you know, it matters. There's been a growing sense in democracies, especially in the American democracy, the last 5 or 10 years, like it doesn't matter. You heard this a lot the last 2 elections. These candidates, they're the same. No, it's not the same. Ideology matters. If you have we have one political party in this country that does not heed the expertise of science, that has no problem with armed protesters and individualism, and fanning the flames of individualism. And this really kind of exploded with this pandemic. The one thought I had was that President Trump is exactly the worst president, the worst person to be president for a pandemic. And a nice thought experiment I have sometimes is try and think, how would President Obama have dealt with this differently?
you know, at least someone who believed in the power of government to be effective, who believed in advancing the case of experts. This doesn't have to be done in heavy-handed fashion, but it could, right? So those are just some thoughts I had, and I wondered if anybody else wanted to say anything at that point. I know we're almost done here, so just anybody have any last thoughts? Gabriel Shez, that is.
As a Floridian, I would like to put in my 2 cents.
In the middle of the storm.
Yeah, I'm going to comment on that, but also on the question of how local governments handled this as well. For a long time before COVID was actually going on in the United States, it was talked about as a Chinese hoax for a while, and I think a lot of people forget that. I don't know if anyone here sees All Gas, No Brakes, but I think that's a pretty good representation. They did one on Florida. Went to a Floridian beach. No masks anywhere. If you actually talk to these people, a lot of them actually did not think it was real. They would ask questions like, do you know any family members that have it? No, okay. How do you know for sure, you know? And there's that aspect of it too. But then there's also,
how much of the population of Florida is composed of Florida man?
Yeah. Florida man, and also like Florida man just believes in liberty and freedom and all this to such an extent that they will ignore all of these suggestions. I wrote down a lot of things. I'm just gonna be very brief. The CDC was gutted before this all happened too, so that was a really huge thing. There was a pandemic board, then they got severely defunded. That's one more thing to that. Up till recently, schools have been reopening physically, especially some more middle American states. I was doing like road trips, and I could see on the news that they were just going to high school like normal. In Florida, especially in my Miami area, like my local area, when the protests were happening, it got like mixed up with COVID at the same time, because they were placing curfews on people saying it was for COVID, but really that it was at the same exact time that riots were happening. So there's that aspect to it. I mean, it is a lot, and it's disproportionately affecting minorities. There's just like a lot. There's a lot.
One word, because Nicole's question can be answered a little bit directly. There was no concerted or organized federal response, or to the extent that there was one, it was undermined by the White House. At several points, Trump said that it's each state for itself, and he even urged on states that were opening up prematurely. So he did not play a constructive role in that. So it was not a centralized, organized effort. That's for sure.
We were improvising.
That's so crazy to me. Like over here, you have like the president gave the rules directly, like he addressed the whole country, and like you can't, like I don't even know how you would separate, like how it would work if each part of the country did their own thing. Like that's not, well, it's because we're divided in like provinces but not states per se. So it's just really weird that the government functions like individually per state.
Harley.
I know we're past the time we're supposed to end, but I just wanted to, I don't know, bring in a few things I'm thinking about. There's a 2008, I think, book, The Big Sort, about people living in and moving to places where their neighbors have the same political opinions that they do. I think that's something really interesting and important to think about right now, how much where we live, we're just surrounded by people who think similar things, and also our online circles, and then how much of the country just that we don't see thinks the opposite for whatever reason. And like also with the Florida man thing, this is just something I think about. I heard that that was the reason for that is that Florida has like, you can publish more about who gets arrested. So that actually is probably happening throughout the whole South and the Midwest, and probably also New England and like everywhere, right? But we think that it's only in certain places that people think certain things. I worry about that, you know, and about how people, a lot of people really do think that this is not as serious as they're making it out to be, that it's a flu. I think that the social media companies should be held accountable for what they're doing to not say the truth. I don't know. Also, I think it's interesting that like I saw a plaque the other day on a house in Baltimore. It says like, love is love, all these like slogans, and science is real. And that it's so scary, like legitimately scary that we're adding that to our list of things that are now like liberal slogans. And that like, you know, live, laugh, love, science is real, like, God.
Sarah had her hand up, but before she speaks, I want Gabriel to explain to everybody who Florida Man is, because we have a lot of international students here. They may not know who Florida Man is.
Okay, so Florida Man sort of, and the community around Florida Man. So people in America, I mean, people around the world do insane shit, but people in America do absolutely insane shit. And so because of I knew about the publishing law thing. I found out about that a couple months ago. But getting rid of that, you know, that just means that like more stuff that people get caught by the police can be published in Florida than other counties. But you know, it's always phrased in the same way. The headlines, which is Florida man wrestles crocodile, rescues crocodile before both injecting each other with heroin. Right? Like we decided at some point during the fight that they were both going to get a dose of heroin. Whatever. Like and it'll be, you know, like. Florida man breaks into a housing decoration store to wash his hands. You know, it could be any of these things. And so to create this archetype that there are more crazy people, you know, in Florida, because it's always phrased the same way, Florida man. And then that got perpetuated by the creation of like a subreddit, r/Florida man, that then had started to compile every single story, you know, with Florida man in the title of it.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so that's what Florida man is.
Sarah, you're up, and then Ruben has the last word for today.
I was just thinking in a response to Nicole about like why we have like a federal versus like state sort of situation going on, and like I think it's important to consider in a world that would work nicely and like appropriately as we would expect, that like the populations, I think, kind of going along like with what Harley just mentioned about like how people move in like neighborhoods, areas that are more similar to you, with a population so huge for the US, like it could in theory like really help with representation if like everything wasn't screwed, because like I think on such a large scale, like considering just the scale of it. Yeah, I don't know, I was a little off of a comment.
No, that's good. Thank you. Ruben. Bring us home, Ruben.
So I was gonna say, I very much agree with Harley and this fear of like the skepticism that has been apparent in like conservative or right-leaning areas. But I want to note that like it's not only these people moving to these areas, the government notices these migrations, and it's not a coincidence that all these people are watching the same news. But then these same people that are like preaching this freedom or this liberty are all watching the same thing. It's the false pretense of individuality. It's like, no, I only watch Fox, but no, all of you watch Fox. Like it's the lie. It's the the false pretense of America, this idea that when you come here, you can be who you want. And it sucks, like, but it's so confusing how conservative people are blind to this. Like, they show you all the time, even when conservative people, like, let's say Waco, Texas, this was a conservative group that separated themselves from the government. You know, the people that Trump says he is for, and the government blew them people up. You know why? Because they got too much power. They don't like that. You can't be an individual, you know? It just confuses me so much. It's like, I don't know. Yeah.
Excellent point. I like the exasperation. That's a perfect way to end our first meeting, because there's a lot of exasperation out there. Listen, I'm going to let everybody go. But, you know, read the articles I posted, please. They're short. They're very good, from the Atlantic and the New Yorker. I think they're very informative. We're, of course, going to be talking about this as we go forward. There's really no way to avoid discussing the pandemic and the political impact and reaction to the pandemic as we go forward. It may turn out to be a great research paper for you later on. And of course, you know, if you want to look at a case study of a different country, how they were able to control the pandemic, what were the political features that, you know, that allowed this or enabled it. So thank you very much for a great opening discussion today. Take a look at those articles, and you know what you have to do for next week. We'll be reading Wendy Brown, answer those questions I posted on Canvas. Email me if you have any questions, and I'm going to stick around here for a few minutes. I think Harley and I are going to chat, but before Harley and I chat, I'm happy to chat with any of you if you have any other questions before we before I duck out for the day. Okay. All right. Have yourselves a great rest of the week, and I'll see you all next Wednesday. Okay.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
For me,
Yeah.
are we going to talk about like specifically or like only American politics, or
I
are
hope
we going to like other countries too?
I hope not. I mean, I hope that we can bring up some other countries as well.
Okay.
I mean, it's theory, but there will be at least 3 of the readings are principally about like race in America, but they definitely have implications about other countries. That's for sure.
Cool. Cool. That was it.
Take care. Enjoy your hammock.
Bye. It's right there waiting for me. Bye.
See you later. Gabriel and Laurel, you guys want to chat?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask how the structure of the class is going to go. I think it says it's supposed to go to 6:45, but on the syllabus it says 6.
I know. Early on, I said early on that I'm going to make it 6:30. I wanted, sorry, no, 4 o'clock to 5:30. I'm going to make it 5:30. Initially, I was going to go to 6, but then I was discouraged by my dean. So, but I'm going to make it a soft ending. Like, it's not a hard stop at 5:30. If people want to shoot the shit.
Why are they telling you to end it short, though? Like, aren't we getting less class time then?
Oh, well, it's because I have to do a lot of asynchronous for the people who are overseas. Did you notice there were like 10 students in the class?
Yeah.
The night in China. So I'm happy to go for however long, but I also have my doubts that Zoom works super great for a 3-hour period. But
right.
It seemed okay. Harley, you wanted to chime in there?
I just wanted to say that I think that's a little BS-y because studios are still 6 hours. That makes me mad. Pointing it out.
Is that synchronous or asynchronous?
Right. Yeah, like why are we only 2 hours, but I have to be in class all day for studios? I mean, like I would prefer to be in class for the whole time. I understand why it doesn't work for students overseas in different time zones, but doesn't it also not work for them when the class is 6 hours?
Yeah, and then like, I don't know, they also are doing recordings of some classes. Like, I don't know, yesterday I had history of film and that was recorded, the whole thing, so that other people could watch it later. And I think they're tracking how much you're on Canvas because that's a thing you can see, so that they can tell how much if you watch the entire thing. Okay, anyways.
I am not opposed to going. It was my idea to go to 6. I'm not opposed to it at all. It's just.
I don't want to trouble anyone that's in a different time zone. Like Juan's waking up at 4 a.m. That sucks. But Oh, yeah, I was just wondering, but yeah, I'm fine with.
Maybe I'll just keep it on the syllabus from 4 to 6, and you know, people can start to duck out at 5:30. You know.
Okay, thanks so much.
I could have kept going for another half hour. With
Yeah,
it.
it was good conversation.
I know. Thank you, Laurel.
Thank you. See you next week.
Gabriel, what's up?
Yeah, I just wanted, wait, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I just wanted to hear the remaining questions. Yeah, I'm just really excited for this class. I really enjoyed Greek philosophy.
Cool.
So
Awesome. It's going to be good, Gabriel. I hope. I hope you like the text I've chosen. I'm really excited about them.
yeah, I'm glad I could find PDFs. So
Nice.
I really want to do more commenting. I think we should make that bigger next time. Like we should. What?
On the chat?
Yeah, I think we should make use of the chat function because also sometimes you want to say something and you want to say it like quick or little.
Please
and
do.
it's like,
I don't know how to facilitate that on my end, and I certainly won't have time to read it while I'm running things, you know, but it would be great.
You could read something though if like it had a bunch of up arrows, you know, and things, and people were like, "That's I agree," you know, like yesterday.
I didn't even know what that meant.
Oh, it means like look at that.
Okay.
Yesterday in the history of film, everybody was using the chat function. I think the teacher didn't have it open, and everybody there was a few jokes made. So
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, then I'm
Maybe
going
you
to
could,
start to put that on open while I teach.
Harley, maybe you could like moderate or something, like have the questions or like answers in the chat and then like bring that up to Furman because he doesn't have the separate chat.
yeah, I could absolutely do that. That sounds great. That's a good idea.
Because like I feel like when you speak up in this class, it's already really spicy. So I don't know if people really want to, you know, do like their stump speech in front of everybody. So
Right. And everybody has different opinions. I really actually want to hear people's opinions, even if they don't want to talk. What are the benefits?
Well, this will be kind of an experiment for me, so I'm happy to see how it goes, but that would be super. Please help.
all right, well, bye. Thank you.
Gabriel, take care, buddy. See you next week.
Hey guys.
All right, Harley. So how's it going? Oh, let me stop the recording.